When Clash at the Castle 2022 came to a close, WWE fans were saying that what they had just witnessed was pound for pound one of the best pay-per-views in a long time. A first-time event that punched way above its weight class and went beyond just an experiment wedged into the WWE calendar. This show gave off the same big-time feel as a major event like Wrestlemania or SummerSlam thanks to a great card meshed with unpredictability, meshed with one of the best crowds we had seen in a long time. You were given the matches, you were given debuts, heel turns, the show didn't overstay its welcome, but looking back at it a few years down the line, it's very easy to make out that this show really defined today's WWE. So what made it such a game changer? Well, first things first, this was officially the start to the Triple H pay-per-view era. And I know we had SummerSlam a month before this and that show was great, but as far as him having his own vision for what he wanted as a show, this was it. The previous card he inherited from Vince, also somewhat forgotten, is this was the beginning of the international pay-per-view tour for the WWE. Up until Clash at the Castle, it had been the same loop of North America and Saudi for WWE pay-per-views, with the last time the company went out of that pattern being October of 2018 when they went to Australia. This was the first step into resetting and redefining what shows outside of North America could look like. Maybe if this show doesn't do the numbers it does, doesn't show that there is money to be made elsewhere, the company doesn't take the risk and continue to run these new markets. Chances are you can kiss Backlash in France goodbye, see you later to Money in the Bank from London, or any other crazy crowd we've had in the past little bit, because this laid the groundwork for untapped markets, especially in recent times, hitting the company with a reality check to the point where we now have Clash at the Castle 2 in Scotland, Backlash in France, Bash in Berlin, the list goes on and on. So those are two huge talking points, and I haven't even gotten into the actual show, which was a classic. 60,000 people packed Principality Stadium in Cardiff for the first stadium show in the UK in 30 years. At the end of the show was the chance to see what would have been one of the biggest championship wins in the company's history. Drew McIntyre, the son of Scotland, the UK's own, one-on-one against the head of the table, winner take all. And if you want to talk about aura, this match had it in spades. I feel like because Roman's absurd body of work, people forget that Drew McIntyre carried the pandemic era for a period of time. Weekly, he showed up to work, was a complete horse for the company, and during this time, he also met Roman Reigns, champion versus champion, but he couldn't get the job done. Drew was walking in, no title. Meanwhile, Roman had reached 734 days up until that point, and going in, WWE made Drew McIntyre look like an absolute machine. Someone who would endure all the pain, someone who would fight the bloodline on his own, fight 1-on-8 if he had to, fight until he did what he wanted to do, and that was take it all away from Roman Reigns. Finally get his moment in front of a packed house, finally put his hands on the world title, and have the world cheering behind him. And you guys all know the story of Drew McIntyre, a rise and fall and rise again that I'm not going to go through. Having home field advantage, you started to wonder, is this the night where the reign ends? What made things even more fun was all the theatrics that added to this match. Right as Drew was about to make his entrance, poetically played Broken Dream, showing Drew's entire career. And even though he didn't properly walk out to it, even though it was just a prelude, that nervous energy and anticipation started to build. Roman on the other side coming out with no Usos and no Paul Heyman. Usos because of Jimmy's DUI, and Heyman because he was selling getting put through an announce table by Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Roman was legitimately walking into a war zone. It felt like if Drew lost, Cardiff was legitimately going to start a riot. These two for 30 minutes gave us a wrestling clinic, infused with heart-pounding near falls, the shenanigans of an attempted Money in the Bank cash-in from Theory, two of WWE's biggest studs going pound for pound and destroying each other, having every single move in the other's arsenal scouted, all while Drew McIntyre had all of Cardiff on the edge of their seats every time he made the pinfall, because you never knew when this thing could end. And then it looked like the end was in fact here. Drew McIntyre claymored Roman Reigns into 2047, and just as he's about to get the 3, a game-changing debut. A debut that would add another member to the bloodline. Solo Sikoa was enough to distract Drew and give Roman the win and break everyone's heart. I remember so many of us thought that this was the perfect night to do it. This should have been Drew's crowning moment, but it wasn't his time just yet. Now a few years later, Drew has the chance to do it all over again, but this time end up the victor. In a weird way, what's so perfect about this is now Drew McIntyre's challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship, and the whole character transformation that he went through started because he was annoyed with Cody bringing over a former member of the Bloodline. This man hated the Bloodline because they cost him his biggest moment, and now it could possibly lead to an even bigger moment. Big picture, Solo's debut is one of the moments that's going to be replayed for years and years to come, and looking back at how the company immediately put a spotlight on his arrival, plus what's going on with WWE programming today, that makes it all the more important in the overall lore of this show. And it's crazy how things work out for everyone. Drew McIntyre has a chance to do it all over again, but this time literally in his home country. They can make amends for Drew McIntyre singing to end the show after the biggest loss of his career. Like, imagine Scotland going mental if he springs off the rope and claymores Priest into next year, pins, and then wins. Solo is now undergoing a character transformation with his own version of the Bloodline, and it's starting to build to the return of Roman, who went through 4 years as a villain only for his future return to be one of the most awaited in a long time. So what happened to close the night holds major significance, but the one thing this night also did was rebooted what it meant to be the Intercontinental Champion. Seriously, for years the company had led you to believe that holding this championship came with prestige, that this was the workhorse's title, that this championship was the pathway into the main event scene. But let's be honest, no matter how much they gassed it up, that simply wasn't true. The Intercontinental Championship scene had some peaks here and there, but it was a shell of what it once was. So much so that Clash at the Castle was the first time since Wrestlemania 37 that this championship was defended on pay-per-view. That's a span of 15 pay-per-views, and you're led to believe that this title actually means something. But on this night, the championship was reborn, and the guys who gave it new life, Gunther and Sheamus. Sheamus, who in his rookie year had won the WWE Championship and now was looking to complete the Grand Slam. And speaking of rookie years on the main roster, underline main roster WWE, when we talk about them, it's the same culprits. Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, but Gunther's was really strong. He came up from NXT and quickly dominated, winning the Intercontinental Championship 2 months into his run. And remember when Gunther rocked up, the worry we all had that this would be another fumble by Vince McMahon? You were just waiting for the moment where something stupid happened. The moment Vince repackaged him as Grizzly Gunther, made him come out wearing a robe to resemble a bear with a skinned bear head on it. All this while he pranced down to some horrible Def Rebel song that probably went like this.
Ring General, bear noise. Ring General, bear noise. Ring General.
We all knew it was a matter of time until Gunther became another one that got away. Even the Intercontinental Championship reign didn't become what it was until this night. Both guys had promised to break each other until there was simply nothing left of the other. As Gunther entered, Giovanni Vinci was put back in Imperium, so the band was back together. The crowd continued to be absolutely electric for this, like it was a football match and Sheamus was the home team. As the bell rang, it was chaos all around Gunther and Sheamus, with the other members of their groups brawling, and they don't lay a hand on each other until the bell rings. But once that bell rings, you get one of the most physical matchups ever. These two have the weirdest chop and forearm kink because that's what a lot of this match is made out of. It wasn't anything fancy, it was hard-hitting strikes, it was moves that are very commonplace within a normal wrestling match, but it's the violence that these two delivered those moves with. The whole psychology of the match was that Sheamus would not surrender. No matter how red his chest got, no matter how much punishment he took, no matter how much Gunther drained him, he was not going to say die. Even the finish was brilliant. Sheamus went for the brogue, but his back gave out after taking so much punishment. Gunther went to hit a powerbomb, but he was barely able to deliver it, showing that he was dead on the other side as well. One final lariat, that's it. It was like the final bullet in a gunfight getting the kill. Whoever had just one more would take it, and that's exactly what happened. Even in defeat, Sheamus got the standing O, and this was the match that really put Gunther's reign on the map. Now look at him, King of the Ring winner, having given the Intercontinental Championship a rebirth that was much needed, and now on his way to challenging for the World Championship. His development has been great, but if you want to talk about development curves, look at this guy. what does this guy scream to you? That's right, nothing. Literally, there was nothing there. He was generic as could be, bland, boring, vanilla, no direction aside from, hey guys, I'm Rey Mysterio's kid. We really started to think that this guy is not going to pull things together. He just needed that one change. He needed something. He needed something to latch onto that would make Dominic Mysterio his own entity. And on this night, we finally got it. So Edge had returned at SummerSlam since he was feuding with the Judgment Day to get the assist in Rey and Dom's match, and now Rey wanted to get even more even with the Judgment Day, and he chose Edge as his partner for the match. After all, it was Edge who created the Judgment Day, then had his group taken over by the Goth Kids. This man really cut his hair to look like an elementary school teacher, only to be in the group for like a month. So Rey wanted revenge on the Judgment Day, chose Edge as his partner, and that made Dom very jealous. He wasn't chosen by his dad, but in this he met his mommy, who took him to the back and showed him just what her brutality really is. Make of that whatever you want. So you knew that Dom was going to turn on Edge at one point or another. We'll cross that bridge very quickly here in a sec, but the Cardiff crowd absolutely lost it for Edge Generico. I'm proud of that one, please don't hate me. They were singing Metalingus, they were having fun, and this tag team match was an absolute blast like most things on this show. And after Rey and Edge won, Dom came into the ring to celebrate. Kicked Edge right in the Genericos, and the crowd lost it. Dom had officially turned heel, and now you're thinking, alright, this is gonna get stretched out and Rey's gonna do the whole,
"Oh, why, son? Why did you do that to Edge? He's familiar."
but instead, Dominic Mysterio looks at his dad and delivers a clothesline from hell so good it would make JBL forget that he hates Mexicans. And from that moment there, nothing was ever the same for Dominic. After everything he had done for him, after literally winning his custody in a ladder match, that's how he repaid him. The crowd went berserk for this turn, and at this moment, he found a connection with the crowd and he hasn't lost it since. Eventually, Dom joined the Judgment Day and committed felonies so vicious I can't talk about them on this channel. Now every arena he goes into, he can't even speak without being drowned out by boos, becoming the most despicable, nasty, conniving sleazeball in the company, and it's beautiful. Now he's poised to do big things, and if you tell me that Dom Mysterio is going to be a future world champion, I'm going to tell you, of course he is. In 2022, I would have had some serious concerns. Speaking of concern, it seems like Seth Rollins had that for Riddle back in 2022, and mainly concern for his marriage. He told him that he doesn't have a wife anymore and his kids don't want to see him anymore. This was delivered with venom behind it, and you could tell that Rollins was just waiting to say this. We had Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle in an extremely competitive match. Seth's entrance was amazing as always. The finish came when Rollins egged on Riddle, making fun of his divorce and family, and that was ultimately Riddle's undoing as he nearly got DQ'd before Rollins hit a middle rope curb stomp to take the win. We saw Damage Control in their earliest stages a little while after the group formed at SummerSlam. Liv and Shayna was fine for what it was. All in all, this night was outstanding, but why this matters is because of everything attached to this show. This being the flame that ignited international pay-per-views, Dominic's heel turn, the resurgence of the Intercontinental Championship, Solo Sikoa's main roster debut, Triple H's first true pay-per-view. It's crazy how some people have progressed. Gunther is now on his way to challenging for a world title. Drew McIntyre's recent performance is a construct of what happened at this pay-per-view the last time. Io Sky has become Miss Money in the Bank and a women's champion since. The list goes on and on. Drew versus Roman was one of the most hyped and most unpredictable matches in a long while. A spectacular crowd, a great night of entertainment, big matches, entrances, you name it. All this with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton on the shelf, no Brock Lesnar. They didn't have any nostalgia pops, they didn't need to pop in any part-timers to sell this show. This show was just brilliant from top to bottom. Now WWE will present Clash at the Castle 2 from Scotland, and it has the potential to best the first one. Drew McIntyre now on his actual home turf going for the World Championship, Styles and Rhodes in an I Quit match, Sammy and Gable in what might top Gunther and Sheamus as far as a pound for pound championship match. We have WrestleMania, we have Summerslam, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, the pillars of WWE's pay-per-view calendar, but now they have the chance to turn Clash at the Castle into its own entity, to make it as big or close to it as they can to those shows. But for now, the first version remains not only one of the best rewatches from point A to point B, but one of the most significant shows in WWE history.